Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on another reel that Kevin sent in. This one is the Mitchell 307, and I thought it would be interesting to show you how to service this reel because it's completely different than the 307A that I also serviced for Kevin. So there's a lot going on in this reel that does not show up on the other reel, and well, we'll get started and we'll show you how to service this and keep this fishing for a long time to come. Well, like the other reel, this one is in very nice condition. It does appear to be used because there's some residual films and the like around the bail and inside the screws and the like, but overall a very clean reel. We're going to point out the cosmetic difference. We'll point out the mechanical differences as well. And if you like these kinds of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. The channel covers all kinds and aspects of fishing reel repair on all types of fishing reels. And well, they can be very valuable to you. And I would encourage you to do the subscription to that, and also to hit that notification button. That'll tell you when I'm posting, and you'll have a chance to see what it is that I'm working on. I'm noticing a couple of things here. One is that this button is installed incorrectly up here, and other than that, very clean reel overall. It should be in good condition. One of the differences to the 307A, the 307 has a metal cup that is the nut that's going to allow you to turn the handle. The 307A has a plastic cup. When you go to remove the handle, you want to turn it in the opposite direction of the crank. This is a right-handed crank reel, so you want to remove it by turning it counterclockwise to remove that handle. When I go to service a reel, I want to make sure that I take the anti-reverse and I move that to the off position so that it is not interfered with when I remove the main gear. We want to take the spool out, and again, this is misset, so we want to get this set correctly in a little bit. This is your drag system. You have a drag washer and you have the button inside. This one looks like, well, it was probably cross-stripped. The drag washer is in good condition. So let's just make sure that we get this on evenly and correctly. Much better. Okay, let's go underneath here. We'll show you the mechanical differences, and we'll start with the rotor. This rotor cup is held on by a plastic nut, and not the metal nut of the 307A, and it's also one that can be removed by using a coin for field service if you needed to do that. You could do the same thing here. You could use a coin, or well, we're in my shop here, and my shop has drag washers. Here's a metal drag washer from a pen reel. It simulates a coin. You can just, well, you could use a coin if you want to do that, or you could use a traditional screwdriver. Well, for this purpose, we'll just go with the flow here. Show you how to do it, and then move over to the screwdriver. When you do that, please match the slots in the screws with the blade of the screwdriver. With that screw detached, we can remove the plate, and you can see that it's an entirely different interior. This one has got what's called a planetary drive, and it's completely different from the gear and stud crosswind assembly that you saw in the 307A. Again, this reel looks unused, or at best lightly used. We're going to remove the crosswind block next. That is a double pin. When I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray so that I know where they are when it's time to reinstall. With the crosswind block removed, we can pull up on the axle shaft. And the axle shaft has got a flat side and a rounded side. I won't make the mistake twice. The flat side belongs to the back when you go to reinstall. Here's our crosswind block. We will remove that. These parts are clean. As I mentioned, it doesn't appear that there's much, if any, use to this reel. But we'll probably just find there's a lot of old grease if we find that. This is your planetary ring. That's going to make the oscillation work. And then this is your oscillation gear, which is offset on the main gear. Well, to go further, we have to remove the pinion gear, and the pinion gear gets removed by removing the rotor nut up top here. Again, we can use a coin, or you can use a screwdriver. Turn it in a counterclockwise manner, just like this. You want to be careful. It is a plastic nut. It's not a metal nut. I guess the benefit of that is it's not going to corrode or rust. But you do need to be careful with it. That gets into my parts tray. And this is a good place to tell you to take pictures along the way. If you're working on a reel for the first time, or if you can't find the schematics or light, it's a tremendous help in terms of the reinstall if you get stuck. Alright, we can remove the rotor now by pulling up. And just like the other reel, we noted that there is a keyway. It's a little block right here with a stud on it. And you want to make sure that you don't lose that piece. Because if you lose that piece, well, your rotor's going to spin and spin, and you're not going to be able to take line in. Alright, speaking of that rotor, you do not need to remove the bail if everything is working. Generally, I just like to wet the junction where the line is, the bail is going to go. That usually results in getting the reel working again. And if it's too sticky, if it's not working, then of course you want to take it apart, clean the dirt underneath. In this case, it's just a matter of whatever might have been in there. Just needs a good flush, and it'll get right back to doing what it should be doing. You can oil that on both sides once it's cleaned. Set it aside. Do a little bit of cleaning underneath here if you need to on the trip lever. And we'll just set that aside. That doesn't need to go into my parts tray because it's big enough that I'm not going to lose it. To get to the removal of that pinion gear, next you want to take this small screw out that is holding the trip ramp in place. I'm going to use the micro driver once I break that screw. Sometimes I don't have the strength on that micro screwdriver. That goes into a corner of my parts tray along with the ramp so that I don't lose sight of that. And then you need to pull this retention pin here in order to get to remove your pinion gear. You can see the long point on that pin, and that holds the pinion gear assembly in place, which you should be able to remove now. This one's a little tight, so a little trick to working with a tight one is to take your rotor, put it back on without that tie down. Put your nut back on. Hand tighten that. And then use the rotor as a knob. Just keep working it. There we go. To pull it off. Alright, then you want to reverse that. Take that off. That'll enable us to clean and relube. So what's happened there is that the grease is dried on the outside of that bushing. No big deal, because that outside of that bushing is held in place by that clip that we saw. But you do want to make sure that as you do this, that you take care to relube that. Alright, also notice the position of the hole here for your clip. That position for your hole is up. When you go to reinstall, notice that the point is in the up position. I've seen folks that have inverted that, put it in, and then said I can't tie down my gear. Well, that's why. Alright, there was a little bit of tightness there, so I'm just going to see if we can't clean up whatever that old stuff was in here. You saw that the main gear just fell out after we took care of that, and that's one of those reasons why I like to shut off the anti-reverse dog. Now this reel is very dry. I would say that it probably hasn't been fished, or if it has been fished, it's been a long time ago, and that the only thing we need to do here is inspect the pieces and parts, a good relubrication, and we'll get this one back out there fishing again. This, again, the main purpose of this video is to show you the differences, and the differences really are in that planetary gear system for the oscillation. You give it a nice healthy drink of oil on an anti-reverse dog. For those of you that may have removed that anti-reverse dog, You can see how it's worked here, where the spring is located inside the dog and inside the case, and the orientation of the dog itself. I want to put that into the back position off again. Just a little bit of grease on the back of this. We'll clean that up with a cotton swab. And this is a good place to tell you if you have any questions about working on the reels. If you maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you want a little bit more information about a particular reel, leave those in the comments section. I will try to answer those for you. All right, well, we have a gear that's pretty much devoid of grease, so we're going to use Penn Precision Reel Grease here and give it a good coat of grease into the teeth. Get it on the face because that's where that oscillation gear is going to ride. And then we can get a little bit onto the back and we can reinstall this. Press that down. Okay, we have our pinion gear. There's no burring on this. Again, there's no grease on it either. It's all evaporated or dried. If it was dried, you'd want to pick the grease out of the teeth here. In this case, there's nothing in there. So inspect them, make sure that they're in good condition, that they're not bent or chipped or anything. And just go right back in and do that. Remember what we said on this piece, there is a washer to note underneath. Remember what we said here, the hole for the mounting into the side plate is up. And put that in. I'll put a little bit of grease on there so that it goes back in easily. Hold your main gear in, or let gravity do it by kind of forcing it down. Find the hole for the tie-down clip. Go ahead and work that back in. This probably won't be as easy as I thought because, well, it wasn't easy coming out. And once you get it back in, make sure that that hole aligns so that you can put that tie-down clamp in. And with the clip installed, go get the ramp out of your tray and that little tie-down screw. And this one's always fun to work on because, well, it's just so many little pieces to it that if you don't have a parts organizing system, you tend to find that yourself gets in trouble. I put a little bit of grease onto a micro screwdriver to hold that small screw. The bend in this cup goes up, and the tip rests towards that pin that we just put down there. So line the hole on that ramp, and then tie down that piece with that screw. One more piece here, that's the one that always gets me nervous, is this darn little keyway that's needed to hold the spool in place. This is one that kind of requires patience, a deep breath, and a little bit of knowledge to make sure that it gets in there. Find a hole for the keyway, make sure it's perpendicular to the base, and we should be able to put this back on pretty easily now. Look through the rotor for the slot that holds the keyway. Grab your tie-down cap screw, cap nut, cap something. Start it by hand. You don't want to cross strip this. And then let's just tighten that down. I'm using that washer again. That's fine. You can use a coin or a washer or a screwdriver. Give it a spin. Make sure it's all turning. You can see how it turns now. And we can go ahead and install the planetary system. So the planetary gear itself, this is the track. It's set up for a offset in terms of rotation of that inner gear. This is the track that it rests on. So you can do this one of two ways. It doesn't really matter. You can kind of put the oscillation gear in first, get the grease on the back side because it's going to ride on the main gear, get it in between the grooves because it's going to go with the planetary track, and get it on the face. You put that down, and then the planetary gear has like a football goalpost there that goes over the case. And then I like to just kind of rotate that gear itself till I match up the teeth of the planetary gear, and then the ring sits inside the main gear, and then we have this little stud for the crosswind block. So that's how that gets set. Crosswind block is next. There's a long rectangular channel on the one side, the underside of it. Get grease in that and on the face, and then find the rectangular stud. That's what it rides over. Place that in position. Made the mistake on the other one of misdirecting folks in terms of how this axle shaft goes. Light grease on the axle shaft. Flat side faces in. The two holes are what that double pin is going to go through. So load it through the pinion gear, through the crosswind block, through the hole in the base, and then align the holes in the axle shaft so that you see both of those holes when looking through the crosswind block. That enables you to take this tie down and place that in there. Grab the handle then. When we put the handle on, you'll be able to see how the whole thing works. So what you're going to notice difference here is how this block moves. It doesn't move just up and down like the 307A. It's going to kind of take stutter steps. And that's the idea of a planetary gear. It's not an up and down movement. It's rather got different courses to it. And that results in smoother lining of your reel. Oh, this is a beautiful turning reel. Remember, we turned that anti-reverse off, so turn it on. Make sure everything's working nicely, which it is. I'll just take the cap now, put the cap back on, the side plate cover. Tighten this down. And we looked at the drag washer already inside the reel. That's fine. We did take a moment to set this properly in terms of the button up top. We'll load that on, and let's check for tightness. Needs a little bit more of an adjustment. Needs a lot more of an adjustment, but I guess you couldn't get that adjustment the way it was cross-threaded. Now you're tight, and you can back that off a little bit. The advantage of this type of a spool with the release pin is that you can change your spools without changing the drag adjustment on the reel. Okay, we'll run a final test. Bale fires nice and easy now that we kind of lubed up the side. And this reel's ready to go fishing again. So Kevin, thank you again for sending in these beautiful reels. They've been fun to work on, fun to do the videos on, and nice education points in terms of teaching folks how to do the fishing reel service themselves. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. Firefighters and police, first responders alike, all are appreciated. And to everyone, enjoy your day, enjoy reel repair, keep your reels serviced. You'll never know when the bite will be on. And well, it's time to go fishing. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.